Of taking the seats out and getting access to the IMA box in the Civic. Paul's going to be the demonstrator, and we'll interject little things like there's a bolt between the seat. Let's take a close look at it. Okay, there it is. We'll zoom back a little bit so you can see it. One screw. And now, basically, you lift the front of the seat with a lot of force, unhook it, and your seat is now loose. Okay. Now that we hit that out, you'll notice that way in a corner over there is another 10mm bolt. And then right on this corner, we've got an additional one. So once those are out, we'll show you the procedure to get the rest of the seat up. Okay, at this point you want to move all the seat belts to the side, and really you're going to really push up hard. Sometimes you need two people, one on each end, and you pull straight up. Once that top is on clipped, put the seat belts behind it, repeat the thing on the other side. There you go. Now as you can see, what's causing all the difficulty is these little plastic clips here, and they go into these slots in the top piece there. Now we've got access to the back.
Okay, then.
Yeah, this start by turning off the main switch, which you have to gain access to by removing this cover. You notice what it says there. Okay, you're now getting into the high voltage area, but when we flip this switch and allow enough time to remove the rest of the screws, even with Paul's high-speed wrench action here. All right. Get the backlight so we can see it there. Okay, so now you reach in and you lift this red tab, pull it out, and then flip the switch to the off position. Okay, and that battery is now off.
So you just turn it on the opposite direction.
So when you've got the switch off, you now put this little red tab on from the bottom. And this prevents any accidental flipping of that switch, which could make the pack dangerous again. There you go. Deeply into where then you're good. Right? Yep. Okay. Now to get the rest of the back off, we have to work this little fitting here. So you take the center portion, you pop it out. And then you grab the back portion and the whole thing should come out as one piece. And now that's unlocked and you're ready to take the rest of the screws out. Okay, we now have to take out these torque screws, which are holding everything together. Some of these can be quite tight, so you may want to go around with a regular manual torque thing to break them loose, and then you can use a power tool to pull them out the rest of the way. Okay, they're located all around the outside of this pack. And that is what seals it so that the cooling system can work properly. With a power tool, it comes out pretty quick.
A T30.
T30. Now, some of these cars that haven't been opened before, these things can be so tight that you'll actually strip them out. What we had to do on one of these is take a hand cutoff saw and put a screwdriver slot across one of them. It does two things. It heats it up, makes it break loose a little bit, and at the same time it also gives you something serious that you can twist with. Now wait, before you pull this out,
There's a little clip here.
There's a little clip, and you just pull that out.
And there's one on the other side.
And then we're free. Now we have access to the important stuff. Even though the switch has opened the battery pack in the center, things can go wrong, so it's always best to be safe and confirm that those two top terminals have no voltage on them. So Alex is going to put the plus and minus. As we look down, there's less than a half a volt there, we are off. Safety switch has a red cover, and the purpose of it is so while you're working on this you don't accidentally turn the pack on and find yourself dancing around with the high voltage across you. So this is the position it should be mounted in when it's off, and it basically prevents you from flipping this switch up by accident or even on purpose. So keep an eye on that, don't let it fall off, or you may fall into the situation that's indexed on the back cover. This warning, of course, is a little severe. It says you will be killed or hurt if you remove this cover, but we're smarter than that, so we're not going to get killed, and we're going to follow all the safety precautions and handle this pack safely. Okay, so Alex is going to remove the screws, the high voltage screws. And you basically need to get everything connected to that pack disconnected, which will be these three connectors up on top here, the DC to DC converter connection, and the ground that's fed between there. And once those are removed, the mounting screws, top and bottom, will be removed, and we'll be able to pull the pack out and sit it on the table for the rest of the install. The DC to DC connector is kind of a weird thing, and they built in a booby trap. If you try to disconnect the two halves of the connector before you remove the connector from the tab, you're going to break it. So what has to happen is you have to push the tab on the top, which I'm going to try to get in there with the screwdriver, and just show how we just basically just lift it up slightly. And while that's lifted, slide it to the side, and it'll come right off the bracket. At that point, you can turn it over and actually, I can't see in there. At that point, we're going to push in the little prong, and you should be able to separate it there. Okay, that's the hard one. Everything else is much easier. Comes out quite easily. There's 4 bolts, big bolts on the top, and there's one special one that's kind of like a clip to hold things in place. And we like to put a 2x4 down the bottom, so that when the pack gets loose, it doesn't drop down and crush that loom that's sitting down there. Be positive so they can't fall out by themselves. So they all have a little tab that you press down like this in order to release them. So these 3 connectors up here, you basically press the tab and pull the connector out. These 2 you can pull back like this. This orange wire, which comes from the pack, comes up here, has to be removed. And pull that out right now. And you push the little tab in and pull out. And then a lot of these are supported by these little tabs like this. This one's probably not in the way, but the one underneath it that's holding this wire here, does need to be removed in order for us to free that up. So we're going to get in there, and by squeezing the sides of that, you can pull it out. It gives you access to the one below it. Okay, and one more connector there, and now we're free. And did you get that ground out from inside there too? Yep. Okay, so now the pack is free. We're ready to remove it. And this is also something that's best to be done with 2 guys. You want to clear the deck over here so we don't have things stepping on it, because if you lose your balance and bang the pack electronic side against something, you can damage things. So it's important that we get it out cleanly. Okay, so now we basically pull the pack gently out while watching the electronic side over there so we don't bump anything. Put it down, get another good bite. Sit it up on the table. Piece of cake. Now the beauty of the Civic pack is it's got a nice little flat surface here. So this can be lifted up like that on its edge. Now you've got access to everything you need.
Okay, now we're going to start by disassembling the 2 connectors so we can get better access to the wiring for the PTC strip. Okay, there's one screw that holds this bracket in place. I'm going to remove that screw. This will let us get to the fastener that's holding the connector in place a lot easier. Just unscrew it, pull the connector out. Now get yourself a pair of long nose pliers. That's the wire we're going to want to uncover. So you squeeze the two sides. This has got two clamps. You squeeze the sides and pull at the same time to hold the tabs in, and then reach around and squeeze the other two tabs, and it pops right out. Trying to do that with the thing attached with the screw is a real pain in the butt, so that's why we remove it. So now you can put your bracket back to get it out of our way. Okay. So now, like any tape job, you always find the end of the tape to make it easy to unwrap. This one happens to be lucky because it's right there on the end here. Sometimes you can tell because the tape slides back and leaves a little goo, which is what the case is here. Okay, start the tape, loosen it up, and then just unwrap it. Now, underneath this, you're going to find another piece of heavy plastic. We're going to remove that as well. What we're trying to do here is separate the blue and red PTC wires from the rest of the temperature harness. And then we're going to tape up the remainder of the wires so that they're protected. And we're going to install a PTC extender to bring those two wires down to our temperature board. Right, got it loose. So now let's separate the two wires we're interested in away from the other ones. And since we're going to cut these wires anyways, let's just determine where we're going to make the cut. We're trying to wrap it back up there, but you know, in reality, the tape's going to do just as good a job, so it's probably not worth fooling with. The hell with it. Take our cutting pliers and about halfway from one end to the other, leave about an inch, a little better than an inch on the connector side. And now that we get these wires out of our way, we'll be able to tape this up a lot easier. And I think just a couple of layers of tape here should do a nice job of keeping the wires together and protecting them. So no need to put the heavier stuff back on. Just give it another wrap, that's all. So make your wraps nice and snug. And there we have it. Alright, so now we've got the two ends of the PTC wires that we want to connect. We're going to take our little adapter board. Now here's the temperature probe. You're going to see there's a short probe, and then there's a longer probe. This is the one that goes around the pack to the inside. And then there's this strange looking PTC adapter. Let me change the lighting here so you can see it a little better. That's where that's going to go. Oh, got to fix the light. I can't see. But basically, the two little strips, there's an inlet and an outlet side. See if we can see it better now to get some good light on the subject. Okay, the upper terminal is red. It indicates we're going to put the red wires in there. The bottom terminal will be the blue wires. It's going to go right in between there like that. And it's a P stands for probe, H stands for harness, so you make sure you get those right. I mean, if you put it in the way you're showing in the photo here, you can't get it wrong. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just strip the ends of the wire and put them in place. Now, a wire stripper, you try to not cut any strands here. I've been doing this for many years, so I've got a little technique with the pliers, and by prying against my thumb, that lets me strip them quite easily. The thumb against the pliers stops me from squeezing too hard and ripping the any extra strands out. But use a wire stripper or any other technique that works. But be careful, you don't want to cut the wire and then have the wire be too short. There's not a lot of length here. Okay, so now we're going to put the wires into the connector. The key here is to put it fully into the connector, but make sure that you're not squeezing just the rubber. You want to squeeze the wire. And you can see how I'm using the stiffness of the wire to hold the wire end in place. And that way with two hands I can do this. If you try to hold the wire, hold the connector, and use the screwdriver, you don't have enough hands. You put it in place, twist the connector to kind of get the wire seated in there properly. And want to make sure it's fully seated. Make sure you get a good grab on the wire. The last thing you want is to just be grabbing the tail end of it. Now, I'm not happy with how deep that went in, so let's loosen it up a little bit and push it in a little further. And that way we get a really good attachment. There you go. And snug it up nice and tight. Don't be afraid to tighten it. Now the other side, we do the same thing, making sure to keep the polarity the same. And there you have it. We've now attached the PTC extender board. Pop the thing back into its place. And get the wire kind of in the position you're looking for. Now I'm giving you a little barrier strip here so that if you ever have to take this out, this is how you connect your wires back together again. So we're going to take this little sub board here, which is the temperature board, and we're going to tie wrap it right there.
We're going
And
to
Paul's going to do it.
double-sided tape it and tie wrap it.
Right, so there's double-sided tape here.
You want to show that?
Yeah, which is going to stick it to
One.
Yeah, this section right here
And
across here.
Yep.
Now this is the outlet side, and as you can see, the top row isn't populated with cells, so this thing blocking a little bit of the airflow is only going to increase it in the areas that count. Oops. Okay, and it sticks it on there. That'll give it a certain amount of, that's pretty good actually. I don't know how it's going to hold up to temperature, but it should be fine because the tie wraps are going to do most of the work. And while he's doing that, we'll follow. The final dressing of the wires for the PTC board was to tie wrap it to the wire that's next to it, run it across the top of the pack. This is the part you're going to see when you take the pack off. Tie wrap it. Take your inlet temperature probe and use the aluminum foil tape to hold it in position. Tie wrap it, run around the corner. Tuck into the corner between the foam and the plastic so that the wire presents a small profile, because you've got a piece of foam going over this. Tape it again. You can see the corner, and then this is the final pass as it goes onto the temperature board. Gasket that goes right around here, right around the edge of this pack. And this is going to go through the gasket. You want to make sure the rest of the wires are out of the way so that this is the only thing that has to protrude through there. And you also want to make sure that the little bump on the probe, which is where the temperature sensor is in line with the crack between the cells and is facing outward so that the
inlet air that's being drawn through there can be hitting the active face of the temperature sensor. Okay, now we're going to hook up the high voltage wires to the correct connection points on the car. So we're going to take the fuse, which is the plus high voltage, and attach it to this screw, which is part of the main contactor. You want to make sure your screwdriver fits properly, it's the right size screwdriver head, and then really carefully move it, because if you strip this out, you're going to have a problem, and if you don't tighten it up enough, when you're done, you're going to have a problem. So here we're going to take the fuse wire and place it right in the stack there. This is loose because the pack had no batteries in it, but on a real pack, that'll be staying in position for you. You won't have to worry about that. So now you want to get this harness so that the fuse wire goes down as shown. And then when you get it right where you want it, with both hands, really carefully tighten the hell out of that. Just don't strip it, that's all. Stripping it would be bad. And stripping the head is bad, because now you can't tighten it correctly, and that's where the right size screwdriver comes in. Now we're going to attach the fuse so it doesn't rattle around and get in trouble to this set of connectors here by putting a tie wrap. Now I'm not sure if this tie wrap is going to fit, but I guess not. Alright, better go get a bigger one. That ain't going to make it. Nope. Alright, here we go. This is a little bigger. Now your tie wraps may not be orange, they may be white. Really doesn't make much difference at this point. You want to slide that down next to the attachment point on the connector you're attaching to, so that you don't have it slide off on you. And you can bend this wire with a nice tight bend like this so the wire dress looks good. Okay, snug it up. Make sure the top of the fuse is below the top of the pack. We don't want it to be up too high. And that takes care of that positive lead. Negative lead, we're going to go to one of the screws that holds the bracket in place. Again, fit the right screwdriver for the screw. Loosen it up. Place your negative high voltage wire right at that spot. And snug it back up as nicely as you can. And you've made the two connections. Simple as that. Now this is a little difficult to get at if you don't have the pack out, so I don't advise you to try this with the pack in the car. You really won't be able to get a screwdriver on those points, and if you try to do it any other way, you're going to have some issues with getting a tight enough connection and a secure enough connection. So now we're going to tie wrap this thing as a strain relief to this bundle of wires coming out of the pack. This is the wire that goes up to your BCM and measures the voltage taps. And you've now attached the wires securely to the high voltage terminals. And we can take one more look at how it looks from the top. You attach it there, secure it there. The negative lead goes down to that wire underneath. Oops, not that one. There it is, right down here. Okay. And then you bundle it with that harness as it comes out of the pack. And go around the corner and attach it to the standoffs that hold the attachment screws in two places. And there you have it. Ready to go.
Okay, this is extra protection, a piece of 2x4, so that when we lay this stuff over here, which you can see that, we don't bump this board, because it's possible we could rest this thing down on here and smash that board. So that's the trickiest part about doing this now.
Yeah, you want to see it too.
So if you grab the strap at the top and you just lift, the pack will orient itself almost exactly as it needs to be, and then you fit it in. It's really not that hard to control.
About the bottom by the wood. Can you see that?
We're good. We're gonna get that bottom to go in.
You don't want to sit down on top of the wires with the wood there, folks.
Here we are. And it looks like the holes are just about where we want them.
Yep.
And we're good to go. Looks like this could actually have come back this way even more, because this area here that goes through is almost too far out. So here's the fan board, which is going to get fished out to the back, as well as the harness itself. Okay, so you don't need to record. So once the top screws are in, the whole thing's in place, then this can be removed.
That's perfect.
Then we want to put this connector in, which works much better without this in. Now this is an important connector to know how to take apart. You see this little tab here? Yeah, can you see that? Here, let me get in closer. Okay, this connector has a tab right there, which has to be lifted to get this off of this stud here. You can't see too well from this angle, but there's definitely like a little stud there. And until that's removed from there, you can't get this thing out. So Dan's going to record this process. You can zoom in a little bit if you need to. There's a zoom button on the side there somewhere. Is it running?
Yep.
Okay, the first thing to do once you're at this stage is to pass this little circuit board through here.
Got it.
And once he's got that, and he pulls it through all the way in, then we'll feed this end of the harness through.
Let me know when to stop.
Okay, you can stop, and then you want to kind of pick this piece up.
Yep.
And then pull them kind of both through.
Gotcha. I got it.
You should have all the slack
Yep.
up there, like that, right? Now you notice at this point how these wires here have a little feed-through area. Now, can you stop a second, Dan?
Okie doke.
Okay.
This special tie wrap probably won't fit once we put this cable inside there, so you'll have to remove it. And I'm going to send you a replacement, which I believe will work. It's a straight tie wrap. You wrap it around, stick it in a hole, wrap it around, and as long as the hole fits, it should be good. So you wrap it around, hook it onto your harness, pull it tight, and you should be good to go.
Fixed. And then this is nothing but some black tape wrapped around this harness here. So we take this off. And notice the way they do it. They wrap around there and then they put it through. So we want this to go into the harness and then come out of the harness here. So we find the split portion and we make a little notch for the wire to go in. And then we locate where we want the wire to come out and do the same thing. Now the only two wires that are in this little piece of loom are the charging wires for your 12-volt battery. So this is your DC to DC converter 12-volt output that's passing through here. So passing these wires through there shouldn't have any issues with noise or anything else. It's a steady state DC wire running through there. So now we take this, bring the loom back, feed this wire in, and then we want some black tape to tape this back together. And then we put this back on it, and we're ready to continue. Tape this up. Nice and snug. And if you really want to get fancy, you can take this and make them all become one unit. This way the harness is protected all the way. Tape is cheap, so don't be cheap with the tape. Okay, and then we get back to this area where we're going to pass through, and we make our final wrap with this thing in place. And here is where we want to make sure this is nice and snug. Couple of wraps there, and you get yourself a feed through. It's much easier if you remove the blower in the process. So we're going to start with the blower removed and hook the wires up and cut them, and then we'll go from there with reinstalling the fan. Okay, this board is set up so that you can see it says 2 fan and 2 car. Well, the car means these top wires in the harness, and the fan is this. Now, the pink wire is the plus 12 volts, and these terminals follow the sequence on the connector. So your first wire to put in, it would be your plus 12. Make sure that you get the bare wire into the terminal and don't push. I'm going to just make really good sure here. There we go. Alright, we are definitely in there now. And this is a good warning here that check your wires when you put them in. Make sure they're really in. So now we go to the blue wire.
Make sure you use a correct size screwdriver.
Yeah. And we go to the yellow. And I think from now on we're definitely going to put screw terminals on these 3 wires here. Because if you have to, for some reason, pull this out, the last thing you want to have to do is loosen these wires again and deal with this. And then finally we got our pink wire. Secure, secure, secure. All right. So now you put the slotted hole back over that screw. Get your Phillips screwdriver. And this is a vinyl signboard material, which is fairly rugged and should have no problem with hot and cold or any of those other things. But you could strip this out if you're not careful. So the idea here is to snug it up, but don't overdo it. Helps if you actually got your screwdriver in the screw when you're tightening. Yeah, works much better. Okay, and there you have the fan wires. You flip it in. Now the trick here is you want to get this to slide in nicely. So a little bit of spit in there, give it some lubrication. There's only 2 screws holding it? So 3.
Three.
Oh, there's one over there. This is not a good spot to work in, as you can see.
He told the designer that, but he didn't want to listen, so.
What happened?
He's giving me some shit on the tape.
Is that 10 millimeter?
Yeah.
Yep.
I need a wrench.
Oh yeah. All set to go.
Somebody's phone's. I think I could have did that a little better. Let's see how we do on the second piece.
Yeah, don't look professional. There you go.
Better?
Better.
A little better.
A little better.
And instead of worrying about it hitting that thing, let's just tape it right here and then it don't hit nothing. It's nice and solid.
Yep.
Okay.
The aluminum foil tape that I showed holding the fan wiring to that aluminum extrusion should not be used, and instead use a tie wrap and some of these little sticky pads, which you basically peel the back off, stick it to the aluminum after you clean it, and then you use the tie wrap to attach to the black loom, and that's going to make a much neater and easier to use attachment than the foil tape.
Okay. And you notice how I've made the sticker so that it's legible and it's nice and straight. When you're putting these holes in, it's important that you put that pattern in the same way so that you don't have to tilt this sideways in order to match up with the hole pattern.
Mike putting in the case for the back of the car so it looks nice. As you can see, the harness is coming through.
Yeah. And these are special screws that are made for screwing into plastic. So it's important that you don't over tighten them. You can feel when they're starting to snug up, and you don't want to tighten them until they break.
We can make a TV series out of this. The Hybrid Boys.
Hybrid hackers. Hybrid hackers of America. Hey, who knows? There's so many reality programs
I'll tell you.
that are weirder than this. Now at this point we don't have the battery switch on, so there's no danger of touching anything in here. But as soon as that battery switch is turned on, 2 of these terminals become the hot terminals, and it's important you don't stick your finger in there. Now, the last screw wants to have the little cover attached to it. So why don't you turn that off until I... Okay, see this fancy looking cover here? Well, there is no more. I bought the last ones in the world. The factory that made these in Japan was wiped out by the tsunami, And I have enough to do all of our systems here, but I don't know what I'm going to do for the next batch. Hopefully Tyco will smarten up and get somebody else to make some for them. But this little cover will screw on. And that way the mice won't be able to be electrocuted.
Okay, we put the final screws in, put your upholstery back in position, and put the car back together. So let's just review. Your wires are going across here. We're going to use those little adhesive strips with tie wraps in place of this aluminum foil tape. You wire it to your board. Your board should be firmly attached, and you are now ready to put everything back together. When you start putting your electronics back together, make sure that you put the switch on, put the seats back in, get the upholstery back in place, and you're ready to give it the first charge. I want to apologize for this video being so jumpy and the voice not being as good as it could be, but I was under the gun to get this done. I don't have the car available to go back and take any shots that I missed. So if you have any questions or any issues you need to resolve while you're putting this together, feel free to give me a call, and I'll do my best to help you through the process.